I'm Joel Freeman. This show is about you. I just wanted to mention that to you, that we have a great show in store for this evening. It's all about the boxer, Jack Johnson. This gentleman right here, he was the first black heavyweight champion of the world, 1910. And we're going to talk a lot about him with a gentleman coming up by the name of Aaron. He is, in my opinion, probably the leading expert on Jack Johnson. And so we'll be seeing him and talking with him shortly. Also, I just want to say welcome to folks from, I guess there's a wide reach with the Source Radio TV network. And we have audience in India, folks in Australia. You know, Jack Johnson won the championship in 1908 and in Sydney, Australia, just outside of Sydney. Japan, we have folks listening from Canada, United States, UK. You're going to love the story about Jack Johnson also, because he fought there in the UK, all across Europe, South America, and other parts of the world. And so today, I just want to say, and also we have the BBC connection. There's about 16,000 stations that can option whether or not to share this show. And if you are part of our listener to one of those affiliate stations, just write the station manager and say, hey, pick this show up and just air it. And I think we'll have a great time. This is on Spotify, going to be on Apple and Amazon, iPod Radio, YouTube. So we're very excited about the possibilities of this show. And what I'm going to be doing, you see the term mischief maker, and I want to define that. I define that as a curiosity-driven life, someone who is curious about so many different things. When there's tough times, good times, just peeking around the corner and just saying, I'm curious to see how this is all going to work out. I'm curious to see what's going to happen here. And also it's about being a gentle disruptor. I have traveled around the world, at least 57 countries, and many of them have traveled back to them a number of times. I've worked with heads of state and their senior advisors. I've trained leaders of multinational corporations and have worked with educators, nonprofit leaders, all kinds of people around the planet. And so part of why people bring me in is that when you're in a jar, you can't read the label. And sometimes just bringing someone in that can help read the label for the organization, learning what phase they are in their corporate life cycle. Are they in the launch stage? What stage are they in? That's the kind of stuff that I have worked with. I've written a number of books. They're in 28 languages now. And so we're going to be talking about a lot of different things. Probably two main themes that we'll be dealing with. The first theme is about dealing with people who drive you crazy. Now, that might get into race relations. It might get into corporate relationships, family relationships, neighborhood, your faith community, whatever it might be. But we're going to be bringing that in. You're going to see that coming throughout each show, or many shows, I should say. And if we're talking about a character like Jack Johnson, how he drove other people crazy, and how he probably drove himself crazy sometimes, but he had people in his life that drove him crazy. And so that will be part of the texture of what we're going to be discussing. And also another theme is a white man's journey into Black history. Now, I have co-written this particular book here, weighs 5.5 pounds. It's filled with well over 2,500 images, 1,200 QR codes. We're in schools all across the United States. And in this book, it's just filled with all kinds of information, 1,248 pages in all, and images throughout. And so co-authoring this with Dr. Walter Milton, and my wife was involved in that as the chief editor. That has helped to inform a lot of what I've done. I worked for 20 seasons as a mentor, character coach, chaplain in the NBA, one of the first in the history of the NBA, with the Washington Bullets at the time, Washington Wizards. And so this is all of that is helped to inform. I left home when I was 17, hitchhiked all around North America for close to 2 years, long-haired hippie, dope-smoking fool. And with all these types of experiences, it's just kind of an eclectic awareness that has emerged. So we'll be dealing with historical aspects, archaeological, religious aspects. We're going to be dealing with all kinds of different realms. And hopefully, when people are looking at through this lens, we're going to provide another set of another lens to look through at these different topics. So hopefully it'll be engaging, interesting, regardless of what culture you represent and are proud of and are part of. We hope that there's something there for you in future programs. And so tonight we're going to talk about Jack Johnson. Now, what I want to do at this juncture is Mel, the wonderful gentleman behind the scenes here, he's going to pop up a 4-minute music video. And this is a blues song that I produced, and a gentleman by the name of Mark SX wrote the lyrics. And so give it a listen. I'll be peeking in while we're playing it and listening. And then we're going to get into this topic of Jack Johnson, the boxer.
Welcome to the fight of the century. In this corner, we have the Galveston Giant, Jack Johnson. And in this corner, we have the great white oak, James J. Jeffries. Are you ready?
Starts as a secret. Longer the silence, the deeper its meaning. The worst thing to do at times is speaking. Adrift not caught can sound like reaching. And so I've heard about the magic of being willing to open another's baggage. You'll learn carrying pain is quite average. Then what awakens inside is compassion. What would you say to Jack Johnson in 1907? A black man standing in Jim Crow's presence. Culture is emphatic, he's not a man. Bet it wouldn't be that next year you'll be a champion. Hopefully you kept that one inside, 'cause that's exactly what happened with pride. What if I told you you could hear Jack over 100 years later? Well, I'd be telling the truth and you'd be done a favor. It's the voice inside, dying to come alive. Are you alive? Maybe it's the voice inside, dying to come alive. Are you alive? In 1910, the world had enough. A black heavyweight champ was a tad too much. No more buying tickets, watching white men get beat up. They needed one to add balance back to the trust. Skin had a narrative that went like this. Intelligence was approximate to whiteness. So in Reno, this man would have to bow to a white fist. And so the fight of the century would provide this gift. How could a third child of slaves out of 9 be a lover of white women, coloring out the lines? With this great moment, he is surely out of time. Hate can drive you to forgetting about signs. 20,000 showed for a fight that was promising. July 4th would go down as timeless. To talk about it, I'd be honored. But why listen to me when you can hear it straight from Jack Johnson, the 15th round right now in his own voice.
The best man won.
It's the voice inside, dying to come alive. Are you alive? Maybe it's the voice. It's the voice inside, dying to come alive. Are you alive?
There you have it. This is that's a song that I hope you enjoy that. But it's from this book right here. I have my white gloves on because I'm going to show you something in just a second. But this booklet is about Jack Johnson, a book that I wrote. And in the inside, there's a QR code where you can actually, there's the lyrics to that song, and then you can actually watch the song. And then right around the 10th page, 11th page, I should say, I'm not going to show this to you, I'm going to cover it up. There's a secret passcode, and you have to order this to find out. If you're outside the United States, in the United States, you'll receive this. Outside the United States, you'll receive an ebook that'll have the video right there. And there's two options there for you to order this. But then there's a QR code that'll take you to actually hear him speak in an album. And then I also have a 10-point war strategy that I developed. And this strategy is 10 points that Jack used before and during the fight to prepare for the fight of the century and then to win the fight of the century. And at the back of the book, there's just a whole lot of bonus material. And this bonus material is such that, it's 3 times the size of this. With all kinds of information and things you're going to learn about tonight, but in far greater detail with this. And what happened in the late 60s, James Earl Jones, he starred in a show called The Great White Hope, which then later became a film, 1970, where he starred in that also. And Muhammad Ali was very, very taken by the show. He went to it at least twice that I know of, and perhaps more. His wife at the time, Khalila, she told me that she was the one who actually showed him and told him about Jack Johnson and educated him about Jack Johnson. And at his camp in Deer Lake in Pennsylvania, there was a rock that she said that they dedicated to Jack Johnson at the training camp. So this is an LP set from the show, The Great White Hope. Now, I have something, my wife and I own a Black History collection. By the way, this is a playbill, an actual playbill from The Great White Hope that someone attending the show in Broadway would have purchased and have enjoyed. Now, you saw a glimpse of this in the music video that you just saw. This is a record in the matrix. There's a matrix of this record, and it has a -1. When you learn about the test pressings in my collection, I have over 100 test pressings in all, and we'll be dedicating future shows to discussing some of the pieces in my Black History collection, the provenance, the stories behind them. This one I got from a dealer in Great Britain who deals in rare recordings. And what you see in the matrix here is that it has a -1, which means it was the first, and in this case, the only record. What they would do if they're doing a song, let's say for Louis Armstrong or some other performer, Louis Jordan, they would do a test pressing first, and it'd be like a demo tape. And then they would determine, is this the one we want to sell to the public? Well, this is a test pressing not to be sold to the public, but, it was going to be used probably in the film of the fight of the century. And so what I was able to extrapolate from this was 13 audio segments from the analog to the digital. And then my son, who's in the video game industry, he then produced, he then ran it all through AI. And we strengthened, we actually resurrected some words in the audio that were unintelligible from a 1910 recording. I mean, one can imagine how many words that was. And then reducing the hiss and the pop of the record, and then creating a whole idea of how to how to bring this into a realm. My camera's going a little bit crazy here, so it's one of those fancy cameras that you kind of say, well, do I want something fancy? And it as soon as I moved, it kind of moved with my hand. But anyway, what happened is that we were able to resurrect 13 segments. And then I was in this booklet, I was able to tell the story about Jack Johnson through these 13 audio segments that emerged. And one of the things that people just do not realize is that Jack, he traveled all around the world. This is before we had airlines like TWA at the time, later on, or Delta, or US Airways, which later became, oh my goodness, I can't remember what that became. But anyway, American or something. And so anyway, he traveled all over the United States, into Canada, all across Europe. He was in the presence of a gentleman who had direct access to the Tsar of Russia and Rasputin. He was in South America. He was a matador in Spain, and all kinds of different situations that he was involved in. So we're going to be delving into this with my good friend Aaron, who you're going to be meeting in just a few moments here. But I want to cue up about a 15-second ad, because we're sponsored by a group called Rosetta Universe. And I'm going to explain that just in a moment, but let's see what Napoleon Bonaparte has to say about the Rosetta Universe.
Help the Rosetta Stone Traveling Exhibit Project transform an ancient artifact, the Rosetta Stone, into a modern metaphor for problem solving. And that's an order.
So what we're doing, the Rosetta Universe, just before we bring Aaron on, is that I'm the only one in the world that has created a full-size 3D replica that's available to the general public of the Rosetta Stone. They're in museums all around the world. One of my replicas is the movie Night at the Museum Part 3. And what we're doing is we're transforming this ancient artifact, the Rosetta Stone, into a modern metaphor for problem solving and critical thinking. And so it's going to be a 5,000 square foot traveling exhibit. So if you go to chiefmischiefmaker.com, that's chief, 3 words, chiefmischiefmaker.com, there's going to be a link tree. And I believe it's the first one, number 1, and then number 2, you can go see what about Jack Johnson that we're talking about today. So without any further ado, I think I'd like to bring on Aaron. If we had some applause, we would do it, but I'll be clapping right now. or we could just make a crowd noise.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Joe, and thank you for your show. This being your first one to have me on the show tonight. Boy, did you pick a magnificent topic with John Arthur Johnson, better known as Jack Johnson, the first African-American heavyweight champion, known as the Galveston Giant. He is indeed something special, was something special, and still remains something special today through his lifetime, and through his death, because a lot of things that happened in his life, he still reaped benefits from the things that he did while he was in the grave, like the pardon that Donald Trump gave him in 2019, yes, where he wrote his own pardon to Woodrow Wilson. But we'll be talking a little bit about that also as we get further into it.
Well,
but I heard you.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I heard you talking about when I was backstage here about Muhammad Ali and his relationship with the Great White Hope. Muhammad Ali was part of that Great White Hope with James Earl Jones. He taught him boxing techniques, how to punch and stuff like that. Muhammad Ali did with that Great White Hope. And also how I learned so much about Jack Johnson was through Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali admired Jack Johnson for his bold and brass ways that he had, and also what he meant to society when America was split. And we'll also be talking about that too.
Now, what drew you to becoming interested in boxing, but also Jack Johnson specifically?
Well, Muhammad Ali's camp was in Deer Lake, Pennsylvania. I was right down the road. So Khalila, his wife at the time, and Muhammad Ali, when they first came up there to build the camp in Deer Lake, Pennsylvania, my family met them. And that's what inspired me to get in boxing. I hung around it. They put me in commercials with the greatest of all times, Muhammad Ali, when he was getting ready for like the Rumble in the Jungle, the Thriller in Manila. We shot commercials and stuff that I still have. Me and him rapping back and forth about George Foreman. Bless George Foreman's heart. He is up there, and all the champs are up there together. They're having one big party. So it's a great homecoming for George, and we want to put a blessing on George and his family as they go through the trying time of George departing. But yes, it was Muhammad Ali how I got involved in boxing, and he used to train us and teach us things at night training, what it took to be great, not just ordinary, but extraordinary to be great. And then in my time of training fighters from Mike Tyson, Tim Witherspoon, Julian Jackson, Frankie Randall, the list is long, fine but distinguished, all the great champions I trained, and being a director and trainer for Don King, only in America, who gave me the opportunity to let talent bloom and blossom, to run his training camps in Orwell, Ohio, and down in Florida with Don, his family, Henrietta King and Carl King and Debbie King. You know, it was just one big family affair. And for decades, all of us worked together to make champions after champions. And the list, like I said, is long, fine, but distinguished. And the rest of it speaks for itself. But none of that would be possible if it wasn't for a great fighter like Jack Johnson.
Now, you have quite a collection about Jack Johnson. Can you share maybe some of those right now, and then we will revisit some more later on in the show? But can you kind of share about one item, let's say, and then two or three, and then share the story behind it?
Yeah, what I can do is I can tell you that Jack Johnson, right, from his accident in Franklinton, North Carolina, you know, that's where my mother's from, and my mother be 98 in the 13th of this month, April, and bless her heart. But in Franklinton, North Carolina, that's where Jack Johnson lost his life. And his car sat there for many, many years, and no one from his family or anything came to claim it.
Wow.
So yeah, so we went down there. I did, and spent time researching the car and if people had seen it. And I have a lot of interviews with people that were at the scene, the people who held the car, the guy that towed the car, you know, all of that, the stories, the newspaper clippings, news articles, and all that of what happened to Jack. And there's a lot of folktale that leads people down the wrong path, but there's a lot of things that deal with the absolute truth of what happened. And I believe that we have the absolute truth that what happened to Jack Johnson. Now, you have to remember what made Jack Johnson so bold and brass. During the Jim Crow era, you know, whites had their own community and blacks had their own community. And Jack Johnson was a part of that. His mother and father were born into slavery, and they worked for whites. down in Galveston, Texas. However, as they worked for whites, she also maintained her children, watched her children. And Jack all the time used to eat with the white children that she was watching. And his mother used to give him cookies. And she used to tell him that nobody's greater than you. Nobody. Mm. So Jack never felt inferior. So she would give him some Oreo cookies and tell him that. And as Jack got older, he realized that his buddies and his pals were white, and it didn't matter who his friends were. If Jack liked you, he liked you. And if he wanted to be around you, and be around you. Now, Jack Johnson, during that era, John L. Sullivan, who was the first American champion through the bare knuckle age in boxing, was the first American champion. When he won the heavyweight championship, he drew what's known as the color line. He wouldn't said that he wasn't going to fight no niggas or no darkies, and he put it just like that. And he didn't. And every heavyweight champion, all the way up to Burns, followed suit. They wouldn't fight African Americans or let them fight for the heavyweight champion. In the meantime, during segregation, African Americans had their own boxing league. It was a World Color Boxing League. Jack Johnson was king of that. You probably heard of Sam Langsford, Joe Burnett, just to name a few of the great African American fighters that were part of that color heavyweight championship. But they fought each other 5 or 6 times, off and on, and Jack Johnson reigned superior over them. However, when Burns from Canada, Tommy Burns, won the heavyweight championship of the world, he said that he's taken on all comers. It didn't matter. Anybody in the world, he would take them on. So when Jack Johnson heard Tommy Burns speak of that, he took off chasing him. And he
now, is that because of his Canadian? I'm from Canada. Is that his Canadian sensibility that he was just open? He didn't have an American perspective on that.
It may be so. I tell people all of that all the time, that it's maybe so, is that he wasn't colorblind. He was a person that felt that he was best in the world at being heavyweight champion, and he didn't really care who he fought. So Jack Johnson chased him all around the world, and he finally caught up with him in Sydney, Australia. And when he caught up with him in Sydney, Australia, the promoter said, well, it looks like we can do this match down here. They had built an arena especially for that. And it was a huge event that African-American was going to fight for the heavyweight championship of the world. It brought newspaper writings all over the world. And at the time, they had those tickers that sent messages around the world. And when Jack Johnson, when they finally signed the fight, boy, did it send a wave through the world that an African-American was going to fight for the heavyweight championship of the world. So a lot of things went into that. There was a noted writer named Jack London from the New York papers. He wrote some hostile stuff as he watched the fight. And the hostile stuff that he wrote about Jack Johnson, as Jack Johnson seemed like he played with Tommy Burns in the fight. He was saying to him as the rounds went on, oh, come on, Tommy boy, that's all you got. Come on, Tommy boy. And he would smile with a big giant smile. So Jack London, he couldn't stomach it. So he wrote on the final end. As a matter of fact, when Jack Johnson knocked Burns out, they stopped the camera and the police jumped inside the ring. And that film that they stopped of the fight, which was a motion film, not along with the fight, was preserved for a long time. Historic preservation, they wouldn't release that film because of the racial controversy that happened. So the stuff that Jack London put on the wire and things he wrote send shockwaves across the world that someone has to knock a smile off this nigga's face. And the only one that could do it was Jim Jeffries. And it was something. Race riots happened in all the major cities across the United States after Jack Johnson won the championship of the world, that an African-American had claimed the heavyweight championship of the world. But Jack Johnson was a character. He was flamboyant. You know, when average person was driving horse and buggies at the time, Jack Johnson was driving fancy cars that they were making at that time. And a lot of the cars that he had came from an African-American car maker at that time who took his ideal of making horse buggies and turned them into cars. And so some of those fancy cars that Jack Johnson was driving came from that African-American packer who built cars, and he helped Ford with some of his patterns Packard did. But that's the way Jack Johnson was. And
Jack even patented a wrench, didn't he? In his name.
That was later on when he patented that when he was in prison. When he went to prison for the Mann Act.
Yeah.
And the Mann Act was to take a white woman across state lines to do immoral things to her. And what it was, she ended up being his wife, and he paid for the ticket for her in Pittsburgh. A lot of people think it happened in the South, but it was from Pittsburgh to Chicago where he paid for the ticket. And once he paid for the ticket, they arrested him. And he went to court, and the federal government got prostitutes and stuff off the street to rig his trial. And when they rigged it, they found him guilty. And they found him guilty, and he was they sentenced him to a year and a day. So when Jack Johnson found that out, they were waiting for him to go into prison, and he took off in a great escape through Canada, posing as a Negro League baseball player.
Rube Foster.
Yeah, as a Negro League baseball player, went through Canada, and from Canada he went to England. When he got to England, the Lords of London and things, they wouldn't let him practice boxing. The Lords of London was controlling it. And because of that, Jack couldn't earn a living. So he took off in other places in Europe. You'll see him in Spain, in France. If you see a lot of pictures with Jack Johnson with a black tam on and a cigar Tiparillo, he picked that up in France. Yeah. So, you know, he picked that up, and he was able to earn money in France and in Spain. But the FBI, without question, pursued him around the world.
And while he was in Spain, I think it was Joselito, the matador, and another gentleman, they trained him to become a matador, and he could have easily switched careers and become a very famous matador in Spain if he wanted. Yes.
Well, you got to realize when Jack Johnson was young, he used to work in horse stables. He trained horses. And when he was 16, 17, and then when he went on to New York, when he left at 16 years old from Texas to New York, he was working in horse stables. So he was familiar about a cowhand and working on farms from being, you know, in the South. And over there, it just fitted in from him being young and working like that around the farms and stuff like that. So yes, yeah, it just fit in for him from my perspective.
And he also owned a ad agency for a brief time in Barcelona, Spain. Very eclectic interests that he had. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Jack Johnson, he was, as a businessman, he was bright. He would take a lot of risks. He owned a hotel in what was known as Black Wall Street in Chicago. He was the first one to own a business in Black Wall Street in Chicago. And he owned nightclubs, the Cotton Club in New York. Jack Johnson owned that first and then sold it to the mobsters.
That's right.
All the big bands, like the intro song you had, those big bands used to play in the Cotton Club. Well, Jack Johnson owned the Cotton Club before he sold it to the mobsters. And a friend of his from Pittsburgh, who was a hotel owner, was the one who helped Jack Johnson get into the hotel business, owning a hotel.
And when
he had his own gym and stuff in Chicago too.
Yes, and he had this restaurant where he had gotten all kinds of rare art, fine art in Europe, and shipped it over. And he had Rembrandts and all kinds of stuff in that restaurant. It's just amazing. It's just that one element of him just astonishes me.
Yeah, well, he was real elegant. He liked elegant stuff. He collected stuff, and you know, a lot of stuff that we have comes from that. You know, that kind of idea. We have the FBI files, where the FBI, how they follow them around. We have the videos and stuff with the FBI talking to him before he went over to Cuba to take the dive. It's right on the film. The FBI guy telling him to do that. You know, those type of artifacts that help people be inquisitive when they're looking at the exhibit. We have the pardon papers from Donald Trump. We have those in the exhibit. Letters, because I'm a WBC ambassador. I was also a trainer of the year for them. I have the letters from Jose Suleiman that when I was a part of all of that with John McCain, when we first launched it to get his thing. I used to eat with John McCain. There was a guy named Duke Durden who was vice president of Don King Production. And also he was formerly the chairman of the Nevada Athletic Commission. Well, John McCain used to box, and him and Duke were friends. So when John McCain would come to Vegas, we would go out and eat with him. So a lot of that groundwork that we laid to try to get Jack Johnson pardoned then, it didn't happen then, but as the wheels of justice spin, the twists and turns that the wheels of justice take, nobody knows how the wheel will end up. But it ended up in Donald Trump's lap, and Donald Trump did the right thing by pardoning him because he deserved it. And many people before that, even Woodrow Wilson, who Jack Johnson, when he was in prison, where he created that wrench, better known as the monkey wrench, he also wrote his own pardon to Woodrow Wilson. And as he wrote his own pardon to Woodrow Wilson was about to pardon. However, it was good old Jack London who showed up again, reminding Woodrow Wilson who Jack Johnson was and what he represented.
Well, he was the one that ginned up a lot of this whole situation. against Jack prior to the fight of the century. We have a question right now. How much money did Johnson make as a heavyweight champion? We know that he made at least $65,000 from the 1910 fight of the century, which according to today's figures, about $2.1 million. But that was just one glimpse. He made a lot of money over the years and was very generous. Go ahead if you want to respond anything to that question.
Yeah, well, you have to put yourself in those times. The money that they were getting at that time was unheard of when it come to boxing. He was selling out stadiums second to none with every fight. In Australia, the promoter, they put up a picture of Jack Johnson outside the arena, and people would pay to throw rocks and stones at him before they went in.
My goodness.
Yeah, the promoters used every angle to get him, to make money on Jack. And Jack didn't mind because he was making money and he was unheard of. So I want to also bring to your attention is that reverse racism when it comes to Jack Johnson. Number one, his first wife, Tina Austin, she was black. And they were married and they were leaving, going to Denver. And when out of New York, well, she didn't like how Jack Johnson act. He was bold and brass. And they got in an argument, and she told Jack, "You better change your ways, this and that." And Jack Johnson said that was it. He couldn't take no more. So he got rid of her in that. And then most of the women that he married that were white had money. One of his wife he met at a social gathering in Pittsburgh, who was very wealthy. In Pittsburgh. So yeah, Jack Johnson, he was very, very, very studious of every move that he made. It was well calculated and well designed. He was bright. And I like to say this also, is that history and culture of all our studies are best attractive, best qualified to reward a person's research, as it takes upon springs and motive that spell the destiny of the human being. So anytime that you have things that we're doing, and I want to compliment you on your magazine. It's on the cutting edge of science, what it is, and it's well put together.
Thank you.
And I hope it takes off like a rocket for you. God bless you.
Thank you. We have about 15 minutes left. Yeah, this is the booklet that is available at jackjohnsonspeaks.com. And if you want to order that right now, just go wait till the end of the show. Don't miss it. But it has all kinds of images throughout. And I've pulled out 13 audio segments from this particular album, or this record that he made in 1910, 20 days after the fight of the century. So check that out, jackjohnsonspeaks.com. Now we have something here that says how many rounds determined that for a heavyweight champion. Well, in this particular case, Aaron, you can speak to this, but I just want to say that this particular boxing match on July 4th, 1910 was set for 45 rounds. And Jack, he was, as you read in this booklet, you'll see round by round what he experienced. And right around the fourth round, he knew that he had him. Knew he had him before that. He was just toying with him. The corner, James Jeffrey's corner, Gentleman Jim, who was not a gentleman, he was a racist, and he was yelling epitaphs at Jack. Jack had the golden smile, and he said in advance that he was going to be clinching because it was a different style of boxing back then. where you didn't have 3-minute rounds, 13 rounds. It could go on for 45, and some went on longer. And you had to give the crowd something. Didn't want to do a knockout in the first 2 or 3 rounds. So there's a lot of clinching going on, but the inside boom, coming up that way. Jack had a powerful left that would knock out the resolve of a enemy. And do you want to talk about that, about how long?
Well, on December 26, 1908, in Sydney, Australia, better known as Boxing Day, which is a European holiday, when Jack Johnson became the first African American heavyweight champion. That fight with Burns, the bout was 14 rounds, and Jack Johnson, in his inevitable style, he had a unique thing that he called the anchor punch. And Muhammad Ali said that he used that punch, the anchor punch that Jack Johnson used to win. He got that from Stephen Fletcher, who was around Jack Johnson, who mentioned it to Ali, and that was the punch he used against Sonny Liston. That's what Ali said at the post press conference. But Jack Johnson had a clinching style where he would tie guys up, wear them down because of his size, and then the openings were up the middle, and he would throw what we know as an uppercut, what Jack Johnson called was the yanker punch. He would throw it up the middle, and a lot of them went out by it.
Devastating. Yeah. And he had kind of a style almost like bare knuckle, where he was leaning back as a 6'2" man, about 200 pounds in his prime. And most fighters today, they're either leaning a little bit forward or they're balanced on both feet. He kind of laid back, and he would catch the punches, right?
Yeah, he would catch them in midair because of Jack Johnson's size. He was much more bigger than the heavyweights at that time. Tommy Burns, if he was living now fighting, he would only be a light heavyweight.
Yes.
Jack Johnson was taller than them guys, and their size. He was able to get away with a lot of mistakes that you will make pulling back, because once you pull back, you get hit, you're going down, and that's what happened to him with Jeff Willard. Willard, who was taller than Johnson, and Johnson wasn't used to being smaller than opponents, and he tried pulling back and pulled right back into a punch.
So when he fought Jess Willard in Cuba, Jess was taller and longer reach, if my memory serves me. And
yes.
Do you think that Jack Johnson threw that fight, or do you think he was just outboxed because Jess was taller and his normal strategy with boxers didn't work with Jess?
Well, Willard was a big specimen of a guy, and Jack Johnson had been off for a long time.
Yes.
And the FBI and all of them were following him, getting to him and all that. So I think it was a combination of the following factors that distracted Jack Johnson, not realizing what he was up against, and ring rust from not being in the ring for a long time. And he tried something that he was able to get away with so many opponents with, pulling back like that, leaning on his back foot. And he couldn't do it with a taller guy, with a reach guy with a longer reach, and he pulled right back into the punch, and down he went. And some argue, well, Jack Johnson, when he went to the canvas, he put his hands up. The sun or whatever was in his eyes, and while he had his hand over his eyes, he got counted out. So there's a lot of anytime a great heavyweight champion gets beat like that, once being dominated, all kind of myth and mythological tales come along with the territory.
Now, what as you've looked over, you have his last will and testament in your collection.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk a little bit about that? But then I want to follow up with another question after that.
Yeah, well, his companion, Scott,
Yes.
they were driving through North Carolina, and they were coming from Texas up Route 1. Okay. So when they got in the accident, and we don't believe that Jack Johnson was driving. We believe that he was in the back seat sleep, and the driver went off the road, lost control of the car, hit the pole, and Jack Johnson fell out of the back seat of the car. And then Scott pulled forward and backed up. When he backed up over Jack Johnson.
Oh my goodness. I did not
And
know
that's
that.
that's what we happened, from different stuff that we read from Scott's comments, because his statements kept changing.
Yeah.
But some of the statements that he made about how Jack Johnson pulled up off the pole back and forth. But the injury that he suffered was to the chest. So that's why we say some of that, was a part of that.
Now, did he have any children? And if so, how many? We have a viewer asking that question.
No, Jack Johnson didn't have no children.
Okay.
He had no children. He had siblings.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was fighting, most of his family, because of his bold and brassness, excuse me, because my phone's running out and I keep talking. Some of them disowned him.
Yes.
Some of them disowned Jack Johnson when he was fighting. So that's the way that goes. But his great niece, she was alive. She went to Washington with John McCain, along with his great niece, who was her mother, to try to get the pardon back then with John McCain. So yeah.
As you studied his life, what has surprised you the most?
Jack Johnson was a character.
That's putting it mildly, isn't it?
He did a lot of bold and brass things, but he was just a character, man. And he did things to make himself known and for us to remember. He was a great promoter. He seen life the way it really is supposed to be. He didn't see color. As much as he was a star in black communities, whites were just overwhelmed at seeing him too during that time. They wanted to see him. He was a specimen to see. And Jack used all of that to his fullest.
Now, if I have another question from a viewer is, wouldn't Johnson have known how tall Willard was and prepared for him?
Yeah, I think he underestimated it, like a lot of fighters do when they're coming back from a layoff, not realizing when you're not active, practicing your trade in boxing, you lose your skill, your will, and you're not as sharp as you should be. And I believe that's what happened to Jack Johnson. He just wasn't as sharp as he was because he wasn't fighting as often as he was fighting.
What was Johnson's greatest fight? Another question. Forget about Jeffries. What was his greatest fight other than with Jeffries?
Oh, Jack Johnson had plenty of great fights. With Burns is a great fight, him being the first heavyweight champion. But Sam Langsford and Joe Burnett and them guys, man, they were great fights. Great fighters fighting each other. Not one time, 2, 3 times. They were great fights. And like my Muhammad Ali used to say, is that all fights are big and great because you got to win in order to get to the
That's
next.
right. I'm thinking of one fight. There's a guy from Canada who had come over, I think it was in France. And when he saw the size of the crowd, he wanted more money and refused to fight until he got more money. And Jack got mad because it was because of Jack that the crowd was there. And this guy was trying to kind of hustle his way, get a little more money because he was fighting a larger crowd. And Jack, I think in his book, he said that in the book, his autobiography, that he unleashed a fury against this fighter like he had done against no other fighter. That would have been quite a fight to watch. He kind of lost his cool with him. He didn't play with him at all. He just came right at him.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Jack had a lot of great moments in boxing. But yeah, man, he's to look into his life is a great thing because it's something to admire. Like him being a race car driver. He's probably the first African American race car driver to drive in NASCAR after his fight with Bernie Oldfield.
That's right.
I mean, with Jeffries.
Yeah, but Bernie.
After beating Jeffries when he climbed out of the ring, Bernie Oldfield, who was the avid race car drive, challenged him, and Jack Johnson took up the challenge, and he raced him in Brooklyn. Yeah, and the race was close. Bernie Oldfield only beat him by a nose, but there was so much around that where AAA was the ones who certified races at the time. And they said if Bernie Oldfield, who was an avid champion race car driver, he said, if you race Jack Johnson, we're going to take all your winnings and your trophies away from you. Wow. And but Bernie Oldfield, he went and did it anyway. They didn't take it, but the race was close.
And Jack later commented, he says, I just don't got it in racing. Quite like Bernie does.
Yeah, he said around the corner, he said he would never go that fast around a curve. Yeah. The way Bernie Oldfield was going. And it was a curve that got him in North Carolina. Yeah. Well, Aaron, we're down to about 120 seconds. If people want to have you do an exhibit for them, how would they get a hold of you? Well, you can reach me at info757@gmail.com, or you can find me on Facebook, Aaron Snowell on Facebook, and message me. You can find me on LinkedIn, things like that. Aaron Snowell, Snowell, right? Aaron? That is correct. Your parents named you Aaron because they wanted you to be number one in the yellow pages when you started a business, the AA. Yeah. Or, Aaron is Moses's brother. That's right. Yeah. So it has a good call. But I want to thank you, Joel, for having me on your show. It's my pleasure. And it was great talking to you about Jack Johnson. He's just simply amazing. In my mind. And if people look into him and read about him and study him themselves, they'll find how much amazing he is. Here's in closing, folks, Aaron, thank you so much. This is a booklet called The Secret 1910 Recording Revealed, a masterclass on Jack's war strategy for the most historic fight of all time, jackjohnsonspeaks.com. Check it out wherever you are in the world. Get it either by ebook or if you're in the USA, I'll personally sign this. It devalues it, so pay first. But every penny goes toward my nonprofit organization. Ebity, that's all, folks. Thank you. Thank you.